In this session we will see interview questions from RFQ, request for quotation, like most important interview questions I have compiled in this video. So we will discuss about the interview questions of from RFQ concept. So in last session we have seen how we can create a RFQ, request for quotation, what are the configurational steps for that. We have seen how we can create a request for quotation with respect to purchase requisition. We can also create a request for quotation manually, like in last session we have seen we have created with respect to purchase requisition. But if we want to create manually, that also we can do, right? That also we will see. Now these are some important interview questions from this RFQ concept that I have compiled here. So first of all, business requirement. So whenever company needs material, they will raise a PR. So like that you can tell the business requirement for request for quotation. Like whenever company needs a material, they will raise a purchase requisition, and based on that purchase requisition they will create a request for quotation. So in the request for quotation, they give mandatory details like quotation deadline date, purchase group, purchasing org, and delivery date. And other data is copied from purchase requisition, right? And then after getting quotation prices from the vendor, purchasing group maintain quotation with request for quotation numbers. After that, they do compare quotation, and quotation comparison will suggest the best quotation. If you want to reject the vendor that we are not interested in, we will click on quotation number and select R checkbox, like rejection checkbox, right? That the vendor is rejected. So with the selected quotation, we create a PO. Like with the selected quotation, we will just create a PO with respect to request for quotation, and with the rejected vendor, we just select a R checkbox. That all we have seen in the configurational steps. So like that, you can tell business requirement for that request for quotation, right? So once you, if you just do the practice, you can easily answer the business requirement for like request for quotation. Now, so T code, sometimes interviewer used to ask the T codes, like what's a T code to create request for quotation, what's a T code to change request for quotation, what's a T code to display request for quotation. So these are T codes like ME41, ME42, and ME43. There is a thumb rule. There is always a thumb rule. If like T code is to create T code is ME41, so if you want to change, just plus 1 in that. So like you can see here in change of RFQ, it's ME42, and if you plus 1 more in that, it will be display T code like ME43. So it's same like for purchase order also, like if you create a purchase order, it's ME21, and if you change purchase order, it's ME22N, and if you display purchase order, this is ME23N. Same for purchase requisition, right? So like that you can remember these T codes. If you want to see the list of requests for quotation, that simply T code is ME4L. As per vendor, if we want to see request for quotation, so T code is ME4L. And if we want to see as per material, then T code will be ME4M. So request for quotation as per material, T code is ME4M. So these steps, sometimes steps also asked by interviewer. So you can say like first we just create a PR by just using T code ME51N. Then we just create a request for quotation with respect to this PR by just using T code ME41. Then we just display quotation by just using T code ME9A. Then we just maintain quotation, whatever price are sent by the supplier or vendor, that we just maintain in ME47. And then we just compare the quotation prices by just using T code ME49, right? And then we just display by just using T code ME9A, and then we just create a PO by just using T code ME21N with respect to quotation. And with the rejected quotation, if we will try to create a PO, the system SAP system will throw a pop-up error or pop-up like a warning message like this is a rejected quotation, okay. And if we just display the PR in ME53N, in status tab we can see RFQ numbers, all RFQ numbers that we have created for that PR, that we can see in status tab, right? So if like interviewer is going to ask you steps, that also you can do, that also you can explain. Now important points in request for quotation. We can create a RFQ manually, and we can also create a RFQ with respect to purchase requisition by another RFQ. Okay, so that we have seen in last session, like we have created a RFQ with respect to purchase requisition. Here we will see how we can create a RFQ manually, right? So let me log in SAP Sandbox. Right, so here we'll just use T code ME41. And here, like if we want to create with respect to request for purchase requisition, with respect to purchase requisition, we will just click from here. But if we are going to create manually, then we are going to maintain all these details manually. So like request for quotation date, like on which date we are creating RFQ, quotation deadline date. So this is the deadline date through that, like that vendor or supplier is going to send a quotation. So that's a deadline date for quotation summation of the quotation, right? And then here we will just mention purchase requisition. And if we want to create RFQ with respect to our another RFQ, that also we can do from here. So let me create a manually. So let me give here my purchase requisition and purchase group, that all details we have to mention manually, right? Plant, storage location. So all these details we have to mention manually. So hit enter, and here we will manually maintain the material, whatever material we just want to maintain that RFQ. So what I will do in another session, I will just open list of my material. So here I will just give a plant, and here I can see list of my materials. So I will just create for mat 04. So here I will maintain this material mat 04. Quantity, let's suppose I just want to take 100 quantity, okay, and hit enter. Okay, it's fine, just a warning. And here we will maintain all these details like RFQ quantity, 100 quantity, quotation deadline date. So make sure to have a delivery date after a date of that quotation deadline date, right? Because practically if you think, like this is a quotation deadline date on which, like this is a deadline for summation of a quotation from vendors end, and delivery date is on which date they are going to deliver that product. Okay, so that must be always after that quotation deadline date. Then hit enter, and here what we are going to do, we will just, if we want to maintain some like supplier, because we have to maintain a supplier here, so we will just go to this seventh icon, supplier address, and just click on that, and here we will just mention a supplier. So what I will do, in another tab I will just open list of my suppliers. So these are list of my supplier, I will take anyone. So let me take this one. This is my BP number and supplier number. So I will just maintain it here and hit enter. You can see all the data is just copied from vendor master record. Okay, and here let me check and save it. Save it. Yes. So RFQ is created under this number, right? Same like that, if I want to create a RFQ for my another supplier, okay, for that same material, I am sending a request for quotation for another supplier also, that also I can do. Okay, so let me take one more supplier. So this one let me take. This is my supplier number, and I will hit I will just copy and paste it here and hit enter. So all these detail is just copied and just save it. Yes. So this is RFQ is created under this number, right? So that we can maintain in Notepad also for our future reference. So you have seen we can create RFQ manually, we can create RFQ with respect to PR, and we can also create RFQ by another RFQ. To create RFQ manually, we will not use any document as reference and we enter everything manually as a quotation deadline date or purchase org or purchase group, material, quantity, plant, everything we just mention manually as we have seen, right? And this is also interview question, like what is standard document type for RFQ, what is standard document type for request for quotation. So this is AN, you can see from here itself, AN is standard document type. You can see RFQ document type is AN, and from here also you can see, from here also you can see RFQ document type is AN, standard document type for RFQ is AN. And sometimes interviewer is also used to ask standard document type for purchase requisition and purchase order. So for purchase order and purchase requisition both, standard document type is NB. You can see from here. So that also sometimes interviewer used to ask. So from here itself you can see NB is a standard document type for purchase order, and for purchase requisition also standard document type is NB, same NB. Right? Difference between quotation deadline date and delivery date. Sometimes interviewer used to ask what is the difference between quotation deadline date and delivery date. So what is the deadline date? It is a time, it is the date within which the vendor needs to submit the quotation. Okay, so this is a deadline date to submit a quotation from vendor's end. Delivery date, it is a date of delivery of goods to be supplied by the selected vendor, right? Now for each vendor we have one RFQ, one-to-one relation, right? You have seen for each vendor or supplier, you can say there is a one RFQ number is there, like every time we are just changing that supplier, every time we are changing the supplier, that RFQ number is also changing. So there is a one-to-one relation, like for every supplier there is a separate RFQ. We can reject the vendor by selecting R checkbox, and that we used to do in ME49, and we can see the rejection letter also. The mandatory data we enter in RFQ is a quotation deadline date, purchase org, purchase group, material, quantity, plant, delivery date. So that's all is a mandatory data in RFQ. What is collective number? So sometimes interviewer used to ask what is collective number. This is used to compare all the quotation. It will link all the RFQ together and compare. Let's suppose for same material MAT01 there are 10 RFQ, because from 10 suppliers we are creating. So it's like very difficult to maintain these 10 RFQ numbers. So it's better to maintain a single collective number for all these 10 RFQs. So that for what we use a collective number. So what is collective number? This is used to compare all the quotation. It will link all RFQ together and compare. So we can link and we can compare all our RFQs. Can't we do compare quotation with quotation without giving collective number? Yes, we can do. It's not mandatory. Yes, then we need to enter the quotation number in this case, right? What is a T code to maintain price? This is ME47. So like that also interviewer can ask what's T code to maintain price, what's a T code to create RFQ, okay, what is T code to compare the prices. That all interviewer can ask all these T codes. PR is an internal document, but RFQ and PO are external document. Why? Because PR is we just use for our like internally we just need PR, purchase requisition. We never send purchase requisition to any vendor or supplier. But RFQ and PO we always send to supplier externally. Okay, that's the reason this is an external document. When creating a PO with the rejected quotation, normally we get an error message. but we can change the message to warning as per the client requirement. That also we can do, as we can change the warning to error, right? Yeah, so these are all important interview questions from this topic, request for quotation. So if you will go through these notes and this video properly, most probably you will answer all the interview questions from this topic, RFQ.